about as long as you've got to produce some money for me right now.
Influence in the NRL isn't always loud or visible.
It just looks bad.
While figures like Peter V'landys, Andrew Abdo and Phil Gould are established household names, an obscure Lebanese player agent quietly pulls the strings behind the scenes, wielding undeniable power in the code.
The NRL need to step in, deregistering and banning from ever being involved with players again.
From his entanglement in the infamous Melbourne Storm salary cap scandal,
the answer is we had some rats in our ranks,
to being a key component in the disastrous fall of the Brisbane Broncos that saw the club claim its first ever wooden spoon.
I think it's the worst act of a player manager in my time in the game.
This low-profile power broker's story is less about player management and more about how unchecked influence can shake the foundations of a sport to its very core. This is the scandalous history of NRL's agent of chaos, Isaac Moses.
Before we dive in, you can support the channel and look awesome doing it by grabbing our official merch from the link below. Your support helps the channel create even more epic videos, so don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, or if you're feeling extra generous, buy me a coffee with the link down below. Thanks guys, and a special shout out to those who already purchased merch. Now back to the video.
Beginning his career at ANZ Stadium under the mentorship of former NRL CEO Todd Greenberg, Isaac Moses quickly transitioned from operational roles to the high-stakes arena of player management. He later launched Cove Agency, a venture he founded and continues to lead.
Cove Agency and all the staff are always available.
He has since evolved into one of the most powerful entities in the NRL, with a track record of representing big-name players like Cameron Smith, James Tedesco, Israel Folau and Lachlan Galvin, as well as coaches such as Anthony Seibold and Shane Flanagan.
The guy's had been deregistered as a manager twice. He's a fucking crook.
Yeah.
Yet Moses' career has not been without its share of controversy, casting a long shadow over his influential reputation.
I believe today is a very deeply regrettable day.
certainly for sports fans generally.
Over the last few weeks, it's come to light that the Storm has engaged in a long-term system of operating what might conveniently be called two sets of books.
Isaac Moses first came under scrutiny in 2010 amid the high-profile Melbourne Storm salary cap scandal.
A small group of senior managers at the club orchestrated and concealed the extra payments,
which exposed a sophisticated scheme involving concealed payments to players between 2006 and 2010, with the club using a dual contract and bookkeeping system to hide payments to players, totalling an estimated $3.17 million.
So how did this happen? The answer is we had some rats in our ranks.
In 2012, he was one of 3 player agents suspended for 6 months after being found in breach of the Agent Accreditation Scheme and Code of Ethics.
With the exception of those few individuals named in the report, we are pleased that there was no evidence that the remaining staff, including head coach Craig Bellamy and football manager Frank Panisi, were involved in the breach.
While the precise nature of his involvement was not publicly disclosed, the Deloitte investigation alleged that Moses had signed 2 contracts for his clients, a central element in the club's efforts to bypass the salary cap.
So in many cases, the amounts recorded in the club's accounts were correct, but they weren't recorded by the 5 club managers in the accounts as payments to players. They were recorded as donations and consulting fees.
At the time, Moses was the agent for Storm captain Cameron Smith, Israel Folau, and several other players.
What's going through your mind at that point?
I don't know. I was actually quite emotional.
Though he has always rejected the allegations, this episode would not mark the end of his involvement in salary cap-related investigations.
This club can do nothing to change the past, and we would deeply regret what has occurred.
The important message that came from the report is that our playing group and our coach have been cleared. And as far as we're concerned, that's it.
Despite Moses's suspension over the Storm scandal, his long-standing professional relationship with Israel Folau would continue for an additional decade. During their 16-year alliance, Moses negotiated Folau's high-profile code switches. From the NRL with the Melbourne Storm and Brisbane Broncos to the AFL and into Super Rugby with the Waratahs. Folau later admitted his AFL move was driven more by family expectations than passion.
I didn't want to do it, to be honest. The main reason why I went to AFL was purely just to help my family financially.
And he initially intended to return to the NRL, with no plans for pursuing a rugby union career.
Bro, back in 2011 when I decided to leave AFL, I actually didn't want to go back. I didn't even want to go to rugby. But in the background, I had a bit of a fallout with my agent, and so I had to pick up the phone. And at the time, I called Sticky. He was the coach at Parra.
From what you're saying, do you think there's any risk that Israel might not return to rugby league?
Oh yeah, no. We'll move heaven and earth to get Izzy to the club.
And I called him, and I was like, "Oh man, like I want to come back to league. What do we have to do?" And I because I had that fallout, I essentially was negotiating my own contract.
A brief fallout with Moses, coupled with the NRL's rejection of a back-ended deal, ultimately steered Folau toward rugby union, where he once again enlisted the services of Isaac Moses.
Israel, do you want your contract reinstated?
But by May 2019, their relationship appeared to have collapsed during the fallout from Folau's quote-unquote controversial Instagram posts posted on April that year.
Homophobic comments have caused outrage, and today, rugby star Israel Folau finally faced the music.
This led Rugby Australia to terminate Folau's contract and left Moses publicly sidelined as the Tongan international refused to heed advice to moderate his comments.
Yeah, obviously I've said what I've said in recent weeks, but I guess just for me personally, just standing up to, I guess, what I believe.
After cutting ties with Moses, Folau has since become a strong critic of player managers who put their own financial interests ahead of their clients' welfare.
And I've come into the game quite early, and I went through some experiences with my ex-agent. One of the things that I'm passionate about wanting to do is project that onto the younger guys coming through that are playing league and union or whatever, whatever sport they're playing. Because I don't want guys just signing contracts and getting done over. Because a lot of us sign these long-term contracts and lock ourselves in with agents and that. But outside of like getting you a contract with the actual team, that some of them don't do anything else. The nature of a Polynesian kid is always just to be nice and respectful and not say anything, and agents look at that and they know Polynesians are naturally like that, so they'll take advantage of that.
The NRL needs to stand behind the clubs at the moment, especially sides like Parramatta. This manager agitates everybody else. He's ruined the West Tigers. He goes in there, and then, as you've said before, he treats it like a Macca's franchise, and it's not good on the game.
In recent years, Isaac Moses, cousin and manager to Mitchell Moses, has cast a long shadow over the Parramatta Eels.
I know your management take care of things, but you've got to have a say with your management about what your future would be.
I've left it all up to my management, to be honest. So my management will do right by me, but like I said, everything's up to my management. They're doing everything they can behind closed doors.
Is there a bet within the team to see how many times you can say management in the one press conference?
Yeah, it is. There's a massive bet, but like I said, I've left it up to my management.
Mitchell Management Moses.
Yeah, too easy.
Isaac Moses' name first surfaced in controversy with the Eels when in 2017 he instructed then-client Tim Manor to fabricate details about a third-party deal and intended to mislead the NRL Integrity and Compliance Unit's investigation into the Eels' 2016 salary cap breach.
Does that upset the boys this week that it's come up again, salary cap talk about the club? Absolutely not. I think until my briefing about 5 minutes ago, I didn't really know much about it.
Instead of complying, Manor reported this directive to the NRL Integrity Unit, directly contributing to Moses' subsequent deregistration for 18 months in 2021. Manor went on to suspect Moses' cousin, Mitchell, of influencing his abrupt demotion from the Eels.
We had player agents that they bullied the club. Like, our club gets coached by player agents on what to do. And when you're doing that, it's a very dangerous game.
Beyond this scandal, Moses' reach extends into every corner of the club. He orchestrated Mitchell Moses' early release from West Tigers to Parramatta in 2017, engineered Blaise Tarlungi's 2024 departure to Penrith, despite competitive contract offers.
Like, Blaise Tarlungi is a great example. They were terrified of upsetting the agent because the agent's got so many players at the club or juniors at the club. So we embarrassed ourselves going so hard to get him, and he still walked away.
And actively campaigned for his client, Blake Green, to be appointed as the new Eels head coach following Brad Arthur's exit. An action Arthur's camp later blamed for ultimately contributing to Arthur's termination. Most recently, Isaac Moses once again showed how much power he wields in the code by getting Channel 9 to pull Michael Chammas from its 100% footy show.
Nine's producers rang Isaac Moses, manager of Mitchell Moses, to organise him to come onto the show. Mitchell and the manager would not have Michael Chammas there as the journalist.
What?
So you know what Nine did? They bent over.
Only one person could wear this outfit on this set. Mitch Moses. That's a great news. Hello, Mitch.
Thanks, boys. Good to see you here tonight, mates. Now, we've got lots to talk
That move by Isaac silenced Chammas, who for years had clashed with him and often called out Moses' tactics.
Everyone has been accusing me of being Isaac's puppet, but I haven't spoken to him since the day Jason Taylor was sacked.
Chammas was quickly swapped for veteran reporter Danny Weidler, leaving fans and other prominent journalists upset.
But again, this shows you the power of player managing in this game of rugby league.
Yeah, I know, but it's weak as piss from Channel 9. Like, there's no way that should be allowed.
They saw it as Nine Network giving in to outside pressures and kissing the ring of Isaac Moses. And if that wasn't enough, Buzz Rothfield from the Daily Telegraph has now revealed that two of Isaac's biggest non-player clients are NRL legend and Channel 9 commentator Cameron Smith and Today Show presenter Danica Mason, which really drives home how deep Moses' influence runs in the footy world.
Hey, I had nothing to do with that.
No, please.
Nothing.
Please, you control everything. We know that.
It's utter disbelief, it's frustration, and it looks like they're out of answers.
In 2019, controversy first surfaced at the Brisbane Broncos when then coach Anthony Seibold, a client of Isaac Moses, publicly signalled to the Broncos board his intention to recommend Moses' other client, Matt Lodge, as the club's next captain, a move widely criticised as a conflict of interest.
Matt Lodge could end up being the Brisbane captain if the board approves it. Billy?
I'm with you, Gus. Firstly, I don't see Matt Lodge as a captain of a club.
Managing then coach Anthony Seibold and an estimated 9 players, Moses wielded significant influence over the club's roster and contract decisions, leading to accusations from figures like Gordon Tallis that he effectively ran the Broncos. The following year, tensions boiled over. In June 2020, the NRL revoked Moses' accreditation amid the Parramatta Eels scandal, triggering mid-season contract chaos as the 9 players and coach Seibold himself were forced into stalled renegotiations that unsettled the squad and strained the salary cap.
To Isaac Moses, the NRL seems to have been decided to come down pretty hard on player agents and their behaviour.
They're having a huge impact, getting kids at sort of 15, 16, moving kids out of clubs, and some player managers will go and get in a player's ear, and all of a sudden they're a little bit disgruntled, a little bit distracted, and I just see there's just way too much movement. They have way too bigger impact. So if they're doing things illegally, then they've got to come down really heavy on it.
And although Moses appealed the ban, the following year an independent appeals committee upheld the cancellation and formally revoked his accreditation.
Isaac has a lot of influence at a lot of clubs, particularly particularly the Broncos and the Warriors, as we know, and he has had at other clubs, and that's moved and shifted over time. And a lot of coaches and CEOs don't like that that a player agent has that much control.
And now to a bikie scandal rocking the Brisbane Broncos. Rising star Tavita Pangai Jr. busted breaking quarantine rules at a barber shop barbecue.
Despite the fact that Moses' influence was a key factor in the club's struggles in 2020, an inexperienced young roster, underperforming big money veterans, off-field scandals, and toxic team culture also contributed to the Broncos' historic low.
What do you think it says about what's going on at the Broncos?
I think it confirms everything that goes on. It doesn't say anything, it confirms everything that we're all hearing.
Culminating in an 11-game losing streak and a last-place finish.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these scenes, I've never seen this from Brisbane. We've got players out there now, some of their key players, emotional. Alex Glenn in tears, Brodie Croft in tears. Yeah, a horrible night for Brisbane.
From the moment Isaac Moses re-emerged from his NRL ban in August 2022, whispers of his influence echoed through Manly's corridors.
Specific agent. Who's the coach at Manly?
And who was he managed by?
Isaac Moses.
He orchestrated the 2023 arrival of coach Anthony Seibold from the Broncos and subsequently secured the signing of Seibold's trusted assistant, Shane Flanagan.
Obviously I've got a manager, and he's got a lot of players, and he manages your coach as well.
I look at the strengths and the weapons that Shane Flanagan has as a coach and his experience. One thing Shane's good at is bringing a group together under a little bit of adversity.
In the months that followed, Fox Sports observed that Manly added 8 new players, 6 of whom were represented by Moses, including Aaron Woods, Matt Lodge and Luke Brooks, sparking headlines that the Sea Eagles had become Moses' personal plaything.
Is there a concern here with his agent, Moses, and the amount of players he's got at the club, coaching staff? I've heard a bit of a whisper that a few people are worried about that, no?
Well, there's always talk at Isaac Moses' clubs where he manages the coach.
The concern for the club and the fans is that a player agent can almost be running the joint.
I think it's a concern if a manager has too many players at one club. I think it can get a bit messy.
By mid-2023, outrage peaked as fans and pundits called out the clear conflict of interest.
There was so much noise about, we're Isaac Moses-run club and all this kind of stuff.
Ultimately pressuring the club into a bizarre public reveal of every contracted player's agent.
I get on well with Isaac. He obviously manages Seabs, and it was not an issue, so we thought we'd go public with it. And why not be transparent?
We're at a point in time in a season where Manly fans want to know how their footy team is going to fire up and make the finals, not put press statements out about how many players are managed by who at my footy club. I just don't understand the strategy about putting a spotlight on an issue that you don't want it to be an issue.
It comes from the coaches' insecurities.
Then in 2024, Moses lodged a $200,000 lawsuit against NRL veteran Nathan Brown, who was on a modest train and trial deal at the time, claiming unpaid fees from Brown's 2019 to 2020 Parramatta contracts.
Yeah, grateful for the opportunity that Manny gave me.
Court documents revealed that Moses waited 3 years before demanding payment for the contracts he allegedly helped secure. A move critics say reeked of opportunism and predatory conduct, especially given Brown's strained financial circumstances. But the turmoil in 2024 didn't stop there. It was reported by the Daily Telegraph that late in May, Coach Seibold's contract negotiations with Manly, brokered by Moses, collapsed when the coach abruptly stormed out of the room.
I absolutely believe that coaches should not be aligned with player managers. I think that there has to be some sort of ruling, and that is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, mate, but you think that Seabs would be so smart, because look what happened to Brisbane. Those guys just couldn't get the job done.
Most recently, media outlets linked client Lachlan Galvin to the Sea Eagles, based largely on Moses' ties to the club and the looming departure of Daly Cherry Evans. However, whispers of a Manly move fizzled out by late May, with Sea Eagles coach ruling out any formal approach.
Look, again, he won't be coming to Manly. we've got a couple of plans in place what we want to do going forward, and Lachlan hasn't been discussed internally.
In the summer of 2016, according to Sporting News Australia, Isaac Moses pulled off a masterstroke of deception, luring the Roosters into a 4-year commitment with client Mitchell Moses only to yank it away at the 11th hour, leaving Sydney Roosters chairman Nick Politis seething in his wake.
Mitchell Moses was chased by the Roosters about 8 years ago.
8 years ago?
Something like that, or 6 years ago.
Was that when he left the Tigers?
Yep. He met with Trent Robinson.
Yep.
They offered him a deal of around $600,000 a year. They thought he was going to take it. He said no.
The move infuriated Roosters officials.
I think then and there they said, all right, Mitchell Moses has said no to our club. We're washing our hands with that situation.
And appeared designed to boost Mitchell's market value before his Tigers contract expired.
Is Moses worth a reported $850,000 a season? Brett Kenny says no.
I just think it's wrong. I would rather see him see out the season at the Tigers.
He's the schoolboy sensation, tipped as the next big thing.
By February 2021, even before Joseph Suaalii laced on a pair in the NRL, Isaac Moses had already embedded himself in the teenagers' circle, appearing at Suaalii's North Sydney Bears debut, despite an NRL ban stemming from the Eels scandal. Roosters chairman Nick Politis initially lobbied for Moses' return to the NRL.
The ironic thing is that he went to Peter V'landys and helped get Isaac Moses re-registered.
This move was driven entirely by a desire to lock down Suaalii's future at the club, while willing to overlook Moses' past indiscretions.
And I think he's not happy with himself for doing that. I know he's not.
But that decision backfired when Moses engineered the Samoan international's record-breaking $5.35 million move to rugby union, the richest contract in Australian rugby history.
Nick Politis said years ago he won't deal with Isaac Moses. He eventually broke his own rule by signing Suaalii, and then he came for a couple of years, starred, and Moses took him out of the Roosters and took him to rugby, mid-contract.
This move left the Roosters and Politis publicly ridiculed and blindsided.
Nick Politis doesn't ever want to deal with Isaac Moses again.
One of the NRL's rising superstars will be on the move, with the West Tigers confirming Lachlan Galvin has chosen to leave.
Isaac Moses' legacy at the West Tigers is marked by player unrest and high-profile exits. As the manager of the Tigers' Big Four, he orchestrated the 2017 exits of Mitchell Moses, Aaron Woods and James Tedesco.
This is going to be my last few games I'm going to play here with the Tigers, and some of my best mates that I've played growing up with these boys, and it could be my last chance to play with these boys. So yeah, I just want to make the most of it and get us off the bottom of the table.
While Luke Brooks remained until the end of 2023 before joining Moses-managed coach Anthony Seibold at the Sea Eagles.
Luke Brooks is Brookvale bound after the Tigers playmaker signed a 4-year deal with the Sea Eagles from next season.
These 2017 departures of Moses' marquee clients were widely blamed for causing such severe disruption, which many believe contributed to then-coach Jason Taylor's sacking, amid accusations on online forums that the club's recruitment was being run in the palm of Moses' chequebook.
New recruit Mitchell Moses could join the Eels in a week, and an out-and-out great says he doesn't want him there until next year.
Players are, pulling all these sort of stunts, I believe, and saying, I can't do this and I can't do that, and all of a sudden they're allowed to leave a club, and 6 months later or even less they're allowed to sign with another club. I think, to me, that's not right.
By dismantling the club's core, Moses triggered a decline that many fans and pundits blame for years of underperformance.
Because 7 years ago, this club let James Tedesco, Mitchell Moses and Aaron Woods leave the club, and they've never got over it.
But don't you see
Hold on, they've never got over it.
Now history appears to be repeating itself with rising star Lachlan Galvin.
On Thursday, there was a meeting between Shane Richardson and Lachie Galvin's agent, Isaac Moses. Now, at that meeting, Richardson was planning to make a huge offer to try and keep Galvin at the club. Amazingly, they were told, don't bother making the offer. The reason, because it was felt from Lachie Galvin and his camp that under Benji Marshall under his coaching, Lachie Galvin would not reach his potential, and that's gone down very badly at the West Tigers.
In early June, the Tigers granted the 19-year-old 5'8" an immediate release, allowing him to join the Canterbury Bulldogs on a deal through 2028, despite Galvin having turned down a 5-year, $6 million extension.
Despite some last-minute legal wrangling, Lachlan Galvin is officially a Bulldog, with the Tigers finally confirming his departure this evening.
Moses' criticisms of coach Benji Marshall and strategic media leaks have inflamed tensions within the club.
I guess everyone's probably a little bit sick of talking about it.
Reigniting debate about the power player agents hold in shaping the futures of both players and teams.
The concern I would have if I am any club dealing with Isaac Moses is the contract does not mean anything.
He's not thinking about what's best for his players.
The NRL need to step in, deregister him and ban him from ever being involved with players again.
Adding fuel to the fire, rumours are now swirling that Jareem Buller, also managed by Moses, might follow Galvin's lead and exit the West's Tigers.
Your name's been tossed up as the next player to leave. Can you assure Tigers fans you're happy at the club and you're content here?
Yeah, I'm happy at this club. But yeah, I don't really want to talk about that stuff. I'm just focused on this week.
Although Buller has publicly dismissed the rumours, his future at the Tigers is anything but guaranteed, especially given the history of his notorious manager, Isaac Moses. Isaac Moses' turbulent run as a player-manager has exposed major flaws in the NRL's oversight of agents.
Player agents. I remember when you first started, Peter, you said that that was one of the things that you were passionate about, cleaning up the murkiness around player agents. It feels as though that hasn't changed.
In response, the NRL has recently announced sweeping changes to its player agent regulations, including re-accreditation requirements and stricter oversight.
The NRL is on the verge of banning coaches from having player managers. They've been talking for years about pulling the player managers into line, and it looks like finally this is going to happen.
In late April, a petition was launched on change.org calling for Isaac's permanent ban from the role of player manager in the NRL. As of the date of this video, it has gathered nearly 2,000 verified signatures. So, what do you guys think of Isaac Moses? Should someone with his track record have ever been allowed back into the NRL? Are hard-nosed managers like him necessary to protect player interests? Or do they ultimately do more harm than good to the sport? Let me know in the comments.